Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with a book haul. This whole week I'm going to be hauling the books that I had gotten the past 2 months. I paid visits to a few places, and I thought what better way than to have a book haul-a-thon. And the first place that I'm going to be talking about is Books A Million. The one that I went to was in Mays Landing, and I also happened to shop on their online site, which what really attracted me was the Millionaires Club, which is their membership program. The guy was able to talk me into it, told me that by the payment, by what I was paying, I'd be making my, I wouldn't be losing much anyhow because of the amount of books that I got. In addition, if you shop online on Books A Million's site, you get immediate and free shipping, which is quite remarkable. I think that it's definitely worth it if you're looking for an alternate place to shop online for books. So between my physical visit and online shopping, I got a total of 7 books. The first one that I got was Frog by Mo Yan, translated by Howard Goldblatt. And what attracted me to Mo Yan is his Nobel Prize in Literature win in 2012. I really need to get into what he's written. I have collected some of his books, like I've done with a few of the Nobel Prize in Literature winners, but this seems quite intriguing, the story having to do with interactions among family members during the Cultural Revolution. Next thing that I got was Irish Fairy and Folk Tales. This version was edited and introduced by W.B. Yeats, and the forewords by Paul Muldoon, which I'm just curious to see what the Irish Fairy and Folk Tales, what kind of tone they took and what I can get out of Irish culture. Next thing that I got is something that caught my attention right away, and that is Dead Presidents, an American adventure into the strange deaths and surprising afterlives of our nation's leaders by Brady Carlson. And I'm just really curious to learn more about, as morbid as it sounds, the later part of each president's lives, what things were like for them toward the end of their lives, and what caused them to succumb to whatever they did. And also the idea of what their legacy was like then and how things have changed as time went by. Because there are presidents that may have had a great reputation 100 years ago, but now with new information and just events that took place, it may alter their reputation in some way. And this will be very thought-provoking. Next thing that I got was Dereliction of Duty, Lyndon Johnson, Robert McNamara, The Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Lies That Led to Vietnam by H.R. McMaster. And I'm just really curious to explore what escalated the Vietnam War, and because John F. Kennedy was someone that wanted to tone things down when it came to our presence in Vietnam. But after his assassination and after Lyndon Johnson assumed office, he really escalated things, and we ended up in a very deep skirmish. But it'll be interesting to read about some more information that McMaster presents here. Those are the books that I got for myself at the store, but I got 3 more books online because I was given $10 in Books A Million money. It's kind of like Kohl's Cash for people that shop at Kohl's. But the 3 books that I got online, the first is Neurotribes, The Legacy of Autism and the Future of Neurodiversity by Steve Silberman. And I came across this in an article that talked about Dr. Asperger, who was a pediatrician that engaged in psychological studies on children, and most of which was he deemed his patients to be little professors, which was instrumental in the discovery of a higher functioning section of the autistic spectrum that we know as Asperger's. But the article talked about how Dr. Asperger was practicing in Austria, and how this was during the Nazi regime, and there was speculation as to whether or not Dr. Asperger sided with the Nazis, and because the Nazi regime was all about they wanted to create an Aryan race, and it had to include a sense of sameness, which people with neurodiversity do not present that, and many of them would fall victim. But the article really had some fascinating things to say, and I really am curious to learn more about Dr. Asperger's position on the issue. It presented a good position, and I felt that it didn't shock me in the least, but he wasn't an Irina Sadler or an Oscar Schindler, but he still did his best any which way. The next book that I picked up is something that really caught my attention, and that is Portraits of Courage, a Commander-in-Chief's Tribute to America's Warriors by George W. Bush. George W. Bush, in the beginning, the way that he responded to 9/11 was heavily praised, and by the end of his term, his actions were heavily criticized, and people on the left have a great time making fun of him. But after his presidency was over, George W. Bush really he settled down to a very quiet lifestyle, which you gotta respect the guy for doing that. Not really wanting to bring attention about himself and just go home to his ranch with his wife and spend time with his family. But he also engaged in a hobby of painting. And with this book, he painted portraits of various soldiers and those that fought in the Iraq War, both men and women, and he tells their story. In one case, in one such case, he paints them all together, which quite remarkable. And it's just great that he's doing this. It's just such a great way to contribute to your legacy. And as it says on the back, the author's net proceeds from this book will be donated to the George W. Bush Presidential Center, a nonprofit organization whose military service initiative is focused on helping post-9/11 veterans and their families make a successful transition to civilian life, and on addressing issues of veteran wellness, including post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. To me, it doesn't matter if you admire or despise George W. Bush. This is a really great creation in itself. I'm not going to review and rate it yet because I haven't read it, but just doing something of this nature and engaging in your hobby to do good is just remarkable. And the last thing that I got was Jerusalem, a Cookbook by Yotam, Ottolenghi, and Sami Tamimi. This is a 2013 James Beard Award winner for Best International Cookbook. This caught my attention when I was looking through the Books A Million site, and also the fact that it's a James Beard winner is something that attracts me. That the James Beard winners, the James Beard Award celebrates restaurants and chefs and even books and works that have to do with food. And I think that's definitely worth celebrating. And this also explores the culinary culture of Jerusalem and the Jewish and Islamic inspiration that the food in the area has within the community. Alrighty, this is what I got on my trip to Books A Million. 4 of which were at the store, 3 of which were online. And I thank you for tuning into this video. Books A Million has plenty of outlets across the country, and I think that they're definitely worth checking out, just as any bookstore is worth checking out, in my mind. Thank you for tuning in, and for now, keep reading.